road transportation kasi nga wala naman traffic pag sa tren. Ayun nga lang, magiging magastos yung railroad transportation kung walang railroad. Kung walang dadaanan yung walang riles na dadaanan yung tren. So pagka hindi option sa transportation ang road, hindi din option ang pipeline or ang pinaka-best option out of dun sa tatlo is railroad, nagpapagawa ng rail yung mismong company. So, doon papasok yung gastos. Okay? So, let us talk about the different types of trucks used in oil and gas transportation. So, the first type of truck used is called tank trucks. Okay? So, yung tank trucks, yun yung usually nakikita natin sa kalsada. May nakalagay na flammable. Dito nga lang, sa yung nakikita nga lang natin sa kalsada na may flammable ay yun yung mga crude oil derivatives na yung mga nanggaling ng refinery. Um, halimbawa ay gasoline, diesel, okay? Yung kasing crude oil na pinaprocess sa refinery dito sa Petron ay inaangkat din siya. So, kaya yung mga nakikita natin sa daan, yun ay mga derivatives na or refined products na siya. Okay? So, anyway, yung ating tank trucks serves as a temporary storage tank. So siya ay horizontal storage tank. So, kumpleto po yan. Kumpleto din po yan ng mga venting system, ng mga hatch. So, kung makikita nyo ito, ayan, makikita nyo ito, ayan, mayroong hagdan dyan. So, dyan umaakit ang tao pag pupunuin kasi yung butas niya para mapuno siya nandito sa taas. Okay, nasa taas siya. Ayan, nasa taas yung niya, yung butas, yung mga vent, yung manhole, yung gauge hatch, yung inlet, nandyan. Okay, nasa taas siya. So, kaya may dyan, meron dyang access para sa tao. May hagdan. Okay? So, ang capacity ng tank truck ay pwedeng 5,000 to 10,000 gallons. Depende daw yun sa density ng liquid. Kasi nga, hindi ka pwedeng magkarga ng mataas na volume ng liquid kung mataas din ang density niya. Halimbawa, fuel oil. Ang fuel oil ay mataas ang density compared sa gasolina. Okay? So, kung magkakarga ka ng mataas na density at mataas ding volume, baka hindi kayanin ng tangke ng truck. Kasi limited lang po yung load na kayang i-withstand ng truck. Intindihan. So, ang volume ay depende sa density ng fluid na ikakarga. Next ay yung vacuum truck. Ang vacuum truck naman ay mas maliit siya compared sa tank truck. 3,000 to 5,000 gallons siya nagre-range. Ang nilalaman naman dito class ay yung mga waste product. Halimbawa, yung tinatawag nating sludge, slurry, and other liquid waste products na nagmula sa crude oil. Yun namang flatbed truck. Yung flatbed truck, yun yung nakikita natin din sa kalsada na normal na truck. Walang capsule, flatbed truck. So, these are used for transporting equipments, machinery, solid materials. So, okay. So, ito yung example ng flatbed truck. So, para kayo ay magkaroon ng ayan, ito yung tinatawag na flatbed truck. Ayan, so that is flatbed truck. So, ginagamit siya for transportation of equipments, machineries. Okay? Ang pumper trucks naman ay ginagamit in order to pump hydraulic fluids na maaaring gamitin sa production facility o kaya naman ay chemicals and other substances. O kaya siya tinawag na pumper truck kasi meron siyang equipped siya with high pressure pump. So may high pressure pump dito. Ang pumper truck usually ay para siyang para siyang fire truck ang itsura niya. Ano, kasi sa fire truck gano'n din naman, may laman siyang tubig tapos pressurized siya. May pump doon. Ayan, so parang ganyan yung pumper truck. So ang next naman natin ay yung regulations and safety concerns when it comes to road transportation. So sa regulations naman, lahat ng mga applicable regulations, halimbawa dito sa Pilipinas, so yung mga agencies na may sakop sa road transportation, especially ng fuel, ay yung DOTR, LTO, Land Transportation, Department of Environment, kasi involved din sila kasi pag nagkaroon ng leak, may epekto yun sa environment. Okay? So, ini-inspect po yung mga lorries, yung mga flammable trucks na nakikita natin sa kalsada. Ini-inspect siya bago siya i-dispatch, bago siya gamitin. May routine maintenance din siya na required to prevent spills. Okay? So, posibleng magkaroon ng matapon yung laman. So dapat din maayos yung seal ng mga hatch. Okay? Naayos din ang seal ng mga hatch. Bukod doon, cover din siya ng Philippine National Standards at ng Hazardous Substances Labeling Guidelines. So, ang mga driver ng mga nakikita nating lorries ay meron ding training para mag-handle ng mga hazardous materials. Kasama sa hazardous materials yung mga fuels. Kasi kung wala silang proper training at simpleng driver lang sila, ay hindi sila makakapag-drive ng lorries. Kailangan nila yon para makapag-drive sila ng lorries. So, hindi sila mabibigyan ng permit. Otherwise, they have the right set of trainings. Okay? Ano pa ba? Ang next natin ay impact on infrastructure. Okay? So let us talk about the different impacts on infrastructure and environment of using road transportation. So in using road transportation, heavy trucks contribute to road wear and tear kasi mabigat siya. Mabigat siya. So mas nag-contribute siya sa pagkasira ng ating kalsada. Okay? So, kaya yung mga dinadaanan ng mga truck, mapapansin nyo, yun yung mga kalsada na kalimitan din na nire-repair. Okay? So, yung mga tanker trucks na may lamang oil and gas can also contribute to traffic congestion kasi malalaki sila. Bukod doon, kung ma-stuck sila sa traffic, it may lead to delay. At syempre, kung ikaw ay may kasabay na flammable truck, syempre ikaw ay mas high risk for an accident kasi whenever pag mas malapit, mas close yung distance mo sa flammable truck, mas malaki yung risk mo from having an accident. Okay? Ang road transportation din has a very notable carbon footprint kasi gumagamit sila ng fuel. So, kaya nagko-contribute sila sa greenhouse gases. Bukod doon, mayroon ding risk for spills or pagkatapon ng product o kaya naman ay leak. Halimbawa ay magkaroon ng dissipation ng vapor sa environment. Okay? So, let us talk about crude oil tanker. So, i-discuss naman natin ngayon yung mode of transportation in terms of bodies of water. Maaaring sa dagat or sa ocean. Okay? So, yung crude oil tanker natin are specialized vessel which are designed for the transportation of unrefined petroleum, o kaya ay crude oil from production sites to refineries and distribution centers worldwide. Okay? So, ang role ng crude oil tanker is to facilitate the efficient and safe movement for a large quantity of crude oil over long distances. So, ang crude oil tanker ay nagiging choice siya kung hindi option ang pipeline, kung impractical ang pipeline. Halimbawa, kung ang isang refinery dito sa Pilipinas ay kukuha ng crude oil sa Saudi, kunyari, kukuha ng crude oil sa Middle East, napaka-impractical na ikaw ay maglalatag pa ng pipeline. Isa pa hindi din ipine-permit yun basta-basta yung pipeline between country to different countries. State to state, halimbawa sa US, dahil ko isang continent sila, okay lang yun. Kasi nasa isang continent sila, though iba't iba yung magkatatawid ng state, pero isang bansa lang sila. So unlike pag tayo ay sa case ng Pilipinas, kung tayo ay kukuha ng crude oil sa ibang bansa, hindi siya basta-basta ipa-permit kung ita-transport through pipeline. Maraming mga issues. So kaya ang nagiging option natin is transportation through crude oil tanker. Okay, so yung crude oil tanker ay talagang dinidesign to handle hazardous fluids such as crude oil. Ayan. So yung meron siyang mga features that can hold crude oil. It can also hold LNG. Kung LNG tanker, iba ang design ng LNG tanker sa crude oil tanker. So, pag kasi crude oil tanker, dahil dumadaan siya sa dagat, syempre mas more yung movement dahil ng wave action, lalo pag may bagyo. So, kasama din sa design consideration yun na dapat kahit gumagalaw yung barko, dahil ng wave action, kahit unstable yung movement ng barko, hindi pa rin mako-compromise yung safe storage ng crude oil. Okay? So let us talk about the different classifications of crude oil tankers. So crude oil tankers are classified based on size and capacity. Okay, based on size and capacity. So based on size, we have the ULCC, VLCC, Suezmax, Aframax, Panamax, and Lightning. Okay, so ito yung iba't ibang types of crude oil. Actually, madami pa ito class A. Hindi ko lang isinama na lahat. So, unahin muna natin yung VLCC or yung tinatawag nating Very Large Crude Carrier. So, yung VLCC are among the largest class of crude oil tankers, typically with a size ranging between 200,000 to 320,000 deadweight tons. So, again, ang VLCC, kaya tinawag na VLCC kasi siya yung pinakamalaki. So, ito yung isang example. Actually, pare-parehas naman ang design ng VLCC, ULCC, and so on kumbaga sa normal na, na tao o na hindi na, yung kung wala kang background sa ship construction and design, kung titingnan mo silang tatlo, silang lahat, para silang magkakapareho lang. Ang pinagkaiba lang ay size. But of course, may difference yun. Okay? So, ganyan yung itsura ng VLCC natin. So, ang VLCC ay ginagamit dun sa mga malalayong distance. Pag halimbawa ay, kunyari, from continent, liliban ng continent o kaya malayo talaga yung distance nung iyong nung customer o nung pagde-deliveran. Okay? Itong VLCC, ginagamit siya almost sa lahat ng continent. Sa Asia, Europe, North America. Okay, ang next naman natin ay yung mas maliit na tinatawag na ULCC or Ultra Large Crude Carrier. Okay? Ay, mas malaki pala 'to sa VLCC, sorry. So, yung ultra large ay mas malaki kaysa sa VLCC na ang capacity ay greater than 320 deadweight tons. Okay? So, kaya niyang mag-handle ng 2 million barrels of crude oil. At ito syempre ay ginagamit din sa long distances, sa malalayong travel. Pag malalayong travel, transportation ng crude oil. Maaari din transportation ng crude oil derivatives or products katulad ng diesel, gasoline. Okay? Next ay Suezmax. So, ang Suezmax tanker naman ay nagre-range ng 150 to 200,000 deadweight tons. So, mas maliit compared dun sa VLCC at ULCC natin. Okay? So, ang next naman natin ay yung Aframax. Ang Aframax ay much more smaller than Suezmax. 80,000 to 120,000 lang ang kanyang capacity. Okay, at ito ay ginagamit para dun sa mga mabababaw lang na at maliliit na port. Okay, so ang Aframax daw class ay ginagamit for regional transportation lang ng crude oil. Per region to region lang siya. Ang Panamax naman natin ay 60,000 to 80,000. Ibig sabihin, siya yung pinakamaliit doon sa 5. Okay? So, siya usually ay ginagamit din sa region to region transportation. Okay? So, yun lang yung difference na inilagay ko doon sa 5 in terms of capacity. May question po ba kayo so far? May tanong? Class, naiintindihan po ba ang ating dinidiscuss? Lahat naman ng sinasabi ko po ay nasa manual. So, sana kaharap nyo ang inyong module, inyong binubuklat para maintindihan, ha? Okay, so ang next natin ay LNG carrier. So, ang LNG carrier naman natin are specialized tankers that are designed for the transportation of LNG at cryogenic temperature. Okay, so if you can still remember, in order to store the LNG at its in liquid state, it needs to be stored at cryogenic temperature of negative 162 degrees Celsius. Okay, ang pressure nga is atmospheric pressure ang gamit. Okay, so yung size ng LNG niya ay nagva-vary depende sa capacity ng tangke. Okay? So basically kaya nililiquefy din ng LNG kasi para lumiit yung volume niya. Para mas madali din siyang i-transport at mas economic siyang i-transport kasi biruin niyo kung i-transport siya ng natural gas, kailangan niya ng mas sophisticated na storage kasi gaseous state siya. Pangalawa, mas kokonti yung matatransport niya. Pag i-convert ang natural gas into LNG, nare-reduce yung volume niya. Okay, so pagdating sa receiving area, tsaka na lang siya or receiving port, tsaka siya kino-convert into gas. Ginagawa ulit siyang natural gas. Halimbawa, ay yung LNG facility dito sa atin sa Batangas City. Hindi ko lang sure kung operational na siya, pero noong huli kong mabasa sa balita ay pa rin siya, na ginagawa pa rin. So, yun ay sa first gen, yung LNG facility na yun. Kasi nga sila ay nagre-rely sa natural gas, yung power plant ng first gen. Maraming power plant ang first gen sa Santa Rita. They have San Gabriel, San Lorenzo, San Luis, Avion. They have 4 power plant inside their plant facility, which relies on natural gas as their fuel. So dahil nga si Malampaya ay kumbaga maano na yung depletion nung reserva. So kaya si first gen nag-decide na siya to invest in an LNG facility. Okay, anyway, In order to transport LNG, kailangan siya ay ma-maintain at negative 162 degrees Celsius. Okay, cryogenic na po yan. So, merong mga LNG carrier na maliit lang na ang capacity ay 1,000 to 3,000 cubic meters. Meron din naman tinatawag na QMAX LNG carrier na kaya ang 266,000 cubic meters of LNG. Okay? So, ang isa sa pinaka-distinct features ng LNG carrier compared sa normal oil tanker, ay yung kanyang insulation system. Kasi nga kailangan siyang ma-maintain at cryogenic temperature, kailangan ng mas advanced na insulation system. Okay? So, yung insulation system is very crucial kasi pag walang or improper yung insulation yung system, sa LNG carrier, it may lead to vaporization or yung tinatawag na boil off. Okay, so ibig sabihin, yung LNG mo babalik ulit sa pagiging natural gas. Okay? So pag bumalik siya sa natural gas, it may pose a risk, significant hazard, risk sa safety ng barko, ng carrier. Kasi yun namang storage tank sa loob ng LNG carrier ay designed to handle LNG. Hindi siya designed to handle natural gas in its natural state, in gaseous state. Kasi when we store natural gas, 'di ba? Ang sabi natin sa previous discussion natin, when we store natural gas, it is stored at ambient temperature at slightly elevated pressure. So, baliktad. Si LNG, ini-store siya at low temperature. Okay? Cryogenic temp, atmospheric pressure. Okay? Atmospheric pressure. Si natural gas naman, ini-store siya at ambient temperature, elevated pressure. Mas pressurized yung storage tank ng natural gas kay LNG ay hindi. Atmospheric pressure lang ang gamit. Okay, naintindihan po class yung difference sa storage and transportation ng dalawa. Okay, thank you. Okay, so meron tayong dalawang primary types of containment system para sa LNG. So may tinatawag tayong membrane type tanks. Okay? So meron akong ipapakita sa inyong picture para sa dito sa NO96 and Mark III. Ito yung pangalan ng LNG carrier. Wait lang. Okay, so I will be showing you a video presentation regarding LNG tank. Just to give you an idea kung ano ba ang itsura talaga ng LNG tank. Wait lang ha, ko lang. Ililipat ko lang dun sa YouTube video. Ano lang siya, tawag dito, medyo mabagal lang kasi yung internet namin dito ay mabagal. Even the data, mabagal din. Hindi ko alam kung bakit. Pero pag nasa labas naman ako, okay naman yung data connection ko. Pag nandito sa school, mabagal siya. Ganon din ang complaint ng aking mga kasama dito. So, pag nag-stop, naglo-loading pa, wait na lang ha. Kasi may problema yung internet connection. Thank you.
Explorers of the deep blue. Welcome aboard the Sailor's Diary, a mesmerizing journey across boundless oceans and captivating maritime tales. Prepare to set sail on a quest for hidden treasures of history, folklore, and daring adventures that have shaped the world's maritime legacy. From the legendary maritime empires of the past to the awe-inspiring feats of modern sailors, we'll navigate through time to uncover the courageous souls who've embraced the call of the sea. Together, we'll dive into the azure depths to encounter the enchanting marine wonders that grace our world with their beauty and mystery. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and embark on this epic voyage alongside the Sailor's Diary.
Mark III GTT Tank Systems. Mark III technology is a cryogenic liner used to contain liquefied gas at low temperatures during shipping, onshore and offshore storage, at atmospheric pressure. This technology and its evolutions equip more than 200 vessels in operation and under construction. The concept. The Mark III membrane system is a containment and insulation system, directly supported by the ship's hull structure. It is composed of a primary corrugated stainless steel membrane, positioned on top of prefabricated insulation panels, including a complete secondary membrane made of composite material. This modular system employs standard prefabricated components that can accommodate any shapes and capacities of tanks. They are designed for mass production techniques and easy assembly. Mark III evolution. GTT technologies are continually optimized to meet the requirements of ship owners and shipyards, while also complying with regulatory changes affecting the sector. Since 2008, GTT has introduced Mark III design evolutions to improve the thermal and structural efficiency of the technology. Its latest development, Mark III Flex Plus, offers a guaranteed boil-off rate of 0.07% V per day, thanks to an insulation thickness increased of 480 mm. Here is an example of how the tank construction looks like for the Mark III tank. This is how an actual tank looks like. Further, we will show you a few videos of the tank from inside.
And handling liquefied gas cargo on board ships. possess significant potential hazards to the crew and the environment. Each person working on a gas carrier and terminal ashore needs to understand the risks involved, obtain the necessary training, and take all the needed precautions. There is always a possibility of the presence of gas in the atmosphere, particularly during loading and discharging of liquefied gases, when the ship is gassing up or being gas freed, when a pipeline or cargo pump is opened up for maintenance, in compressor rooms, within ballast tanks and void spaces, and double bottom tanks adjacent to cargo tanks. LNG, or liquefied natural gas, as the name suggests, is the liquid form of natural gas stored at controlled temperature. LNG carriers are specialized ships that transport LNG at its atmospheric pressure boiling point of approximately minus 162 degrees Celsius. Before we dive further into LNG tank construction and cargo operations, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon for further updates. Most cargo tanks are constructed from stainless steel, which is a material
Okay, baka hindi naman siya masyadong naiintindihan. Sige, so mag-umpisa tayo. Or module doon sa page. LNG pipeline. Ano? So, yung pinakita ko po ng video sa inyo, yun, NO36, 96, and height March 3, yun yung ano, yung implementation and naman may dapat sa maaaring reference sa video na meron siyang payment. Ano yung payment din ano, square root, minus yes po ba? Okay, may question din. Details of that. Nag-fail pa siya. Hindi siya
Wala po, karela ang hello.
So anyway, yung sulit ka pa. Nangyari, stainless color and animation. Membrane na yun, provide meron siyang insulation layers. Ano nakalagay doon?
Ano siya? Nasa biyahe,
Ang feature, kasi naman boil off glass.
mas ano siya?
Pag
Is aral. Ano?
So anyway, yung ano yung
Ay, dapat yung
insulation provides minimal
Bay,
okay? So yung insulation utilizes a double wall design. So dalawa yung wall design niya for insulation. Micro system naman ay so yung micro system
Ano ba malakas na iba naman yung dalawa magtatrabaho?
primary at secondary
Ay, hindi nga. Paano kami dalawa magtatrabaho?
Okay.
Ay, hindi mo may pinanaan sa kwarto. Kami na mag-iintindihan.
Sunod, microwave. Ano ang minor nuts?
May papakita ko sa inyo video.
Hayaan mo na yung aso niya.
Okay. So anyway, itong
Ay, hayaan mo
spherical
na. Hindi ko may pinanaan sa kwarto.
spherical yan. So yung kanina,
Hayaan mo na. Hayaan mo na.
spherical.
Yung maligaya.
Yes po, bakit anong problem?
Hayaan mo na.
Ma'am, mahina po yata yung mic mo.
Okay. Ayan, okay na.
Ano ba mag-aanap ng
Okay, thank you. Sige po. So, anyway, katulad ng sinasabi ko kanina, yung membrane type tanks ay may dalawang type. Ano? Yung NO96 at Mark III. Yung pangalan nitong mga ito ay based sa kung sino yung gumawa at nag-design. Ano? Yung NO96, siya ay double walled design na may insulation. Ang Mark III naman ay may primary at secondary barrier. So parang ganon din yung concept. Pareho silang gumagamit ng membrane. Ang membrane na tinutukoy dito ay gawa sa stainless steel. Yung nakita nyo kanina sa video sa YouTube na parang square-square na gawa sa stainless steel or sa metal, yun yung tinatawag na membrane. Ano? So, bukod doon, bawat membrane meron siyang insulation. Okay? So, ang next type naman natin, bukod sa membrane type, ay yung spherical moss type. Yung spherical moss type naman ay gawa ng isang Norwegian company. Okay? So, yung spherical moss type ay spherical in shape na LNG tank. Hindi siya katulad ng membrane type tanks na kung makikita nyo, hindi siya spherical shape. So, siya ay more on parang cylindrical shape siya na may mga membrane. Okay? So, yung spherical shape ay supported siya by cylindrical structure na nasa ship's deck. So, meron akong ipapakita sa inyong video tungkol sa spherical moss type tank. So, yung una kong pinakitang video ay membrane type yun. Okay? So, let us watch yung video presentation ng spherical moss type tank. Okay, tama na. Baka kayo antokin, nakakaantok yung background music. So let us continue our discussion anyway. Yung pinakita ko sa inyong video is about spherical, yung moss type tank. Okay? Yun yung itsura ng spherical moss type tank. Yung kanina, yung una kong pinakitang video sa inyo ay yung NO96. So ibang itsura niya. Ibang itsura ng LNG NO96 compared dun sa moss type. So pag nakakita kayo ng LNG carrier na ano lang siya, na siya ay flat lang, hindi spherical, yung parang normal oil tanker siya. So ang tawag, yun yung NO96 at Mark III na ang under siya ng membrane type LNG tank. Pag naman nakakita kayo ng LNG tank na spherical in shape, siya yung spherical moss type na tinatawag. Naintindihan, class? Baka kasi mamaya pag nag-OJT kayo, meron kayong mapapunta kayo sa sa jetty. Tapos may makita kayong LNG carrier. So, para at least kayo ay maging familiar man lang kahit dun sa type. Okay? So anyway, ang LNG carrier ay equipped din with anong tawag dito, reliquefaction plants. So basically, ang nangyayari kasi sa LNG carrier, nagkakaroon pa rin ng boil off. Hindi maiwasan ang boil off kasi hindi naman ganun ka-efficient yung insulation system. So dahil nagkakaroon ng boil off, nagkakaroon ng kaunting vaporization ng LNG, ang ginagawa doon sa reliquefaction plant ay kina-capture or nire-recover yung gas and then inaano siya, siya ay kino-condense ulit. Inaano siya, tina-turn ulit siya into liquid form. Okay? So, ibabalik ulit siya dun sa cargo tank. Dun sa pinaka-storage tank niya. O kaya naman, pag halimbawa, masyadong maliit yung boil off, minsan, instead of reliquefaction, ginagawa siyang fuel doon sa propulsion system ng barko. Yun ay kung designed yung barko to run in boil off gas as fuel. Okay. So, ang LNG carriers natin ay maraming safety system, maraming safety features kasi ang ini-store niya ay very flammable. Pag nagkaroon ng kaunting leak, kaunting aberya sa sa insulation, posibleng pumasok yung heat sa loob nung storage tank, nung pinaka-carrier, and then nagkakaroon ng malaking boil off or mataas na rate ng boil off. Okay, may tanong ba kayo sa LNG carrier natin, class? May question po. Sana naintindihan yung concept ng conversion ng natural gas into LNG. Paki-react po ako kung naintindihan. Baka mamaya hindi nyo naman po naintindihan. Kakaunti lang ang nakikita ko. Nasaan yung iba? Okay, thank you. So, next natin, page 52, ay yung crude oil pumping station. So, sa crude oil pumping station, we will talk about the different types of pump that are usually used in crude oil pumping station. So, just to review, ang nagkakaroon tayo ng crude oil pumping station in order to maintain the flow rate of crude oil in a pipeline operation. Okay? So, kasi habang nagpa-flow ang crude oil sa pipeline, nakaka-experience siya ng pressure drop. So, bakit? Kasi may internal friction, yun yung pinagmumula ng pressure drop. Pag nagkaroon ng pressure drop, babagal ang flow. So, dahil may minemaintain na flow, hindi siya pwedeng bumaba doon sa kanilang limit. So, kaya meron tayong mga pumping station na ini-install. Okay? Lalo pag mahabang distance na ng pipeline transportation, kada station, meron silang certain station that serves as pumping station. Okay? So, sa pumping station, ini-increase yung pressure. Okay? Sa pumping station, ini-increase yung pressure doon sa pipeline para ma-overcome yung friction loss. or yung pressure drop. Ang pressure drop ay maaari ring manggaling pag nagkaroon ng elevation change, halimbawa pagpataas or pababa. Pagpataas nagkakaroon ang flow natin katulad din ng sasakyan, pag paakyat, pag paangat mabagal, bumabagal din ang takbo. So ganun din ang oil, bumabagal din ang flow. Kaya bago yung elevation, mayroon nilalagay na pumping station para maka-flow yung crude oil kahit mataas yung elevation. Naintindihan class ang purpose ng pumping station? Paki-react po ako kung naintindihan. Okay. So, sa pumping station, meron tayong tinatawag na prime movers, pumps, may mga control system, at syempre may safety devices. Okay, may safety devices. So, ang purpose again ng pumping station is to boost the pressure sa loob ng pipeline para ma-ensure na walang traffic. Ibig sabihin, hindi bumabagal yung flow ng crude oil. Na-maintain yung designed na flow sa crude oil. Okay? Otherwise, magkakaroon ng problem with regards to transportation of crude oil kung mabagal masyado yung flow ng crude oil. Okay? So, iniiwasan kasi dyan ay yung tinatawag na bottleneck. So, parang sa traffic, may bottleneck din sa pipeline operations. Yun ay nangyayari pag may point wherein nagkakaroon ng friction loss or pressure drop doon sa fluid. So, doon sa part na yon biglang bumabagal yung flow. Halimbawa, sa mga part na mataas yung elevation. So, doon sa part na yun nagkakaroon ng traffic kasi yung flow ng crude oil mabagal. So, ibig sabihin naaapektuhan yung fluid na nasa baba ng elevation. Naintindihan, class? Naintindihan. So, para lang din siyang sasakyan. Para siyang traffic. Okay. So, next naman natin ay let us talk about centrifugal pump. So, ito yung pinakaunang pump natin i-discuss. Ito yung most widely used na pump sa pumping station. Okay. Okay, so centrifugal pumps again is the most widely used dahil siya ay mataas yung kanyang efficiency in handling large volume, low viscosity, fluid at moderate pressure. Take note that we are talking about pumping station. Pag sinabi pumping station, ang nagpa-flow dyan ay crude oil. Pag natural gas, compressor station na yan. Magkaiba po yun. Okay, so yung centrifugal pump operates by converting mechanical energy from a rotating impeller into kinetic energy which increases the fluid viscosity. So later on, I will be showing you a short video presentation about centrifugal pump and how centrifugal pump works para mas maintindihan nyo yung nakalagay sa inyong module. Mahirap kasing intindihin kung hindi natin mahirap na intindihin siya kung wala tayong, kumbaga, kung hindi natin na-visualize. Okay? Teka lang, hanapin ko lang yung video presentation. Okay, so habang inintay natin mag-load yung video, continue muna tayo sa discussion natin. So, and again, ang nangyayari dito pag may may nag-flow sa loob ng pump, pumasok yung fluid. Okay? So, may rotating impeller dyan na nagko-convert ng mechanical energy na gagaling dun sa impeller into kinetic energy. So yun yung nag-i-increase ng fluid's velocity. Okay, yun yung nag-i-increase the fluid velocity. Okay, so ang sabi, ang process daw ay nagsisimula nung pag pumasok na yung fluid sa pump through a suction nozzle at papasok siya dun sa eye ng impeller. Okay, so yung impeller natin ay may iba't ibang design pero ang common na impeller natin ay curved blade na attached sa rotating disc. Normal na impeller, parang yung ginagamit, halimbawa impeller sa mga mixer. Okay, anyway, so ang purpose nun is to catch the fluid and rotate it both tangentially and radially, yung flow ng fluid. Okay? So, yung rotating motion na yun increases the velocity of the fluid. And then, habang tumataas yung velocity niya, yun din yung nagpo-push sa fluid palabas. Sa discharge. So, pag discharge ng fluid, mas mataas na yung pressure niya compared nung siya ay pumasok. Therefore, increasing the velocity of the fluid. Okay? So, ang centrifugal pumps are suitable for handling large volume of crude oil where moderate pressure is required. Moderate pressure lang ibig sabihin. Hindi siya advisable for high pressure. Okay? So, let us watch a short video presentation on how centrifugal pump works. I hope you can, through this video, you can understand yung nakalagay sa module nyo para mas madaling ma-visualize. Okay?
Devices in the hydraulic world. In this video, we will have a conceptual overview of working of centrifugal pumps. At the heart of the system lies the impeller. It has got a series of curved vanes fitted inside shroud plates. The impeller is always immersed in water. When the impeller is made to rotate, it makes the fluid surrounding it also rotate. This imparts centrifugal force to water particles, and the water moves radially out. Since rotational mechanical energy is transferred to the fluid, at discharge sides of impeller, both pressure and kinetic energy of water will rise. At suction side, water is getting displaced, so a negative pressure will be induced at I. Such low pressure helps in sucking fresh water stream into the system again, and this process continues. This is the reason why priming is important for centrifugal pumps. If no water is present initially, the negative pressure developed by rotating air at eye of impeller will be negligibly small to suck fresh stream of water. Impeller is fitted inside a casing, so the water moving out will be collected inside it and will move in the same direction of rotation of impeller to the discharge nozzle. Here you can note one specialty of casing. It has got increasing area along the flow direction. Such increasing area will help in accommodating newly added water stream and will also help in reducing exit flow velocity. Reduction in flow velocity will result in increase in static pressure, which is required to overcome resistance of pumping system. Here you can see more details of vanes inside impeller. They are backward curved vanes with state-of-the-art eye configuration. This vane is extracted from a Kirloskar pump model. If pressure at suction side of impeller goes below vapor pressure of water, a dangerous phenomenon could happen. Water will start to boil, forming vapor bubbles and spoil impeller materials over time. This phenomenon is known as cavitation. More the suction head, lesser should be the pressure at suction side to lift water. This fact puts a limit to maximum suction head a pump can have. Careful pump selection is required to avoid problem of cavitation. Current impeller type is enclosed. Semi-open and open impellers are also in use depending upon application. If the working fluid is cloggy in nature, it is preferred to use open kind of impeller, but they are slightly less efficient. Mechanical design of centrifugal pump is always challenging. A shaft is used to connect between the impeller and motor. Since water pressure inside casing is huge, a proper sealing arrangement is imperative in arresting water leakage through shaft casing clearance. Mechanical seal or stuffing box based mechanism is used for this purpose. Impeller is mounted on bearings. But at suction side of impeller, it is not advisable to fit a bearing since it will block the flow. So bearings have to be fitted at the other end. This means impeller is mounted like a cantilever. For high flow rate pumps, a bearing housing with cooling oil is necessary for improving life of bearings. We thank Kurlaskar Brothers for their technical support and creativity.
Okay, so ang next naman natin ay yung ating positive displacement pump. Okay, so sa positive displacement pump naman, ang difference na to with centrifugal is yung unlike yung centrifugal pump, sa positive displacement pump, hindi yung flow rate nung fluid remains the same. Walang gaanong difference in terms of flow rate dun sa inlet at outlet. Kung makikita nyo dun sa video ng centrifugal pump, makikita nyo na dahil dun sa rotating at radial motion, nanggagaling dun sa impeller, okay, yung inlet pressure ng fluid at yung outlet pressure ng fluid ay magkaiba. Paglabas kasi ng centrifugal pump, yung pressure ng fluid ay tumataas. Bumibilis yung flow. Kasi nga, nanggagaling yun dun sa impeller. Okay, sa positive displacement pump, walang gaanong difference yung flow rate. Yung pressure niya ay hindi ganun kalaki din ang difference dun sa outlet at inlet. So, kaya ang positive displacement pump ay ginagamit sa mga cases na kailangan ng precise flow control. Halimbawa, kung ang mag-flow area handle mo ay yung mga matataas ang viscosity, kunyari, fuel oil, yung high o kaya high viscosity crude oil, yun yung mga crude oil that are considered as heavy. Okay? O kaya yung crude oil or yung fluid that are considered as multi-phase. Okay, so may iba't ibang types ng positive displacement pump. So, kasama dyan yung gear pump, screw pump, piston pump, at diaphragm pump, which hindi ko na siya isa-isahin kasi nga medyo madami pa tayong i-discuss dito. So, anyway, ang important din naman dito is for you to have an idea on how centrifugal and positive displacement pump works. Okay. So anyway, again, ang positive displacement ay ginagamit para sa precise flow control such as transportation of high viscosity crude oil, multi-phase fluid, o kaya naman pag required na mag-operate under high pressure condition sa maliliit na pipeline shorter. Okay? So, ang positive displacement pump ay kayang mag-handle ng mas mataas na pressure compared kay centrifugal pump. Okay, yun nga lang ang disadvantage ng positive displacement ay kailangan niya ng mas frequent na maintenance. Kasi mas maraming moving parts si positive displacement pump compared kay centrifugal pump. Okay, so let us watch a short video about positive displacement pump.
From Global Pumps, and today I'll be going over what a positive displacement pump is. A positive displacement pump is a pump that traps a fixed amount of liquid and transfers it from the suction side of the pump to the discharge. So what we have here is a rotary positive displacement pump. We have a rotor with pressing shoes that press against the hose, and it transfers the liquid from the suction side to the discharge side. Another rotary style positive displacement pump is this lobe pump. So you've got two lobes which create a cavity, and it transfers the liquid through to the discharge. So it will separate the liquid here, go around here and out the discharge. So what we've got here on the screen is a reciprocating positive displacement pump. So as you can see, it's pulling this shaft backwards and forwards, and you've got a valve at the bottom and another valve at the top, and as it pulls back, it draws the liquid in, and then when it pushes the liquid to the discharge. Thank you for watching, and if you want more information on positive
creating device. In other words, as the pressure goes up, flow goes down. It's a direct correlation. Whereas a positive displacement pump, the flow always stays constant. The only thing that's going to change with the flow or performance on a positive displacement pump is going to be the RPM. In other words, each specific cavity is going to, each rotation of the pump is going to produce a specific flow. For example, if you had a gear pump, how that fluid flows into the gear is going to determine the viscosity and so forth. However, on the discharge side, your flow is always going to stay constant. So it is a flow creating device versus a pressure creating device. As far as the centrifugal goes, that is the most popular unit ever manufactured in the world. There's about 63% of all rotating equipment in the world are pumps. And within that, probably 90% of them are all centrifugals. Everything from vertical turbines to ANSI process. It could be a commercial application. There is an inordinate amount of centrifugal pumps out there. Manufacturer-wise, it's as inordinate as the types. You have everybody from Gould's, Durco, Peerless, Summit, Grundfos, and they each have their each individual niche in each market.
Okay, so ang next naman po natin ay prime movers. So, ang prime movers naman ay ginagamit in order to provide mechanical energy para sa mga pump. Ano yun na? Centrifugal at positive displacement pump. So, meron tayong tatlong types of prime movers na usually, dalawang types of prime movers na usually ginagamit. The electric and the diesel engine. Okay, so yung selection ng dalawa ay depende sa power availability, kung stable ba yung power supply, fuel availability para sa diesel, at yung required na operating condition. So atin muna i-discuss yung pinakauna, which is yung electric motor. Okay, so electric motor na prime mover. Sa electric motor natin, gumagamit ng electrical energy. No? Para mag-provide ng mechanical energy para gumana yung pump. Okay, so dahil siya ay nagre-rely sa electricity, ito ay ginagamit pag may stable power supply. Okay, samantalang yung pangalawa naman, yung tinatawag natin diesel engine, ay gumagamit naman ng diesel as fuel in order to provide mechanical energy. So basically, sa diesel engine naman, kino-convert niya yung power na nanggagaling sa combustion ng diesel fuel into mechanical energy in order to drive pump. So pag limited yung power supply or unstable yung power supply, diesel engine ang ginagamit. Okay? So ang gas turbine naman ay ginagamit in order to produce high-speed rotating energy in order to drive pump. So, ito naman, ang gas turbine naman ay ginagamit para sa mataas na power demand. Okay? So, pag mataas yung power demand, gas turbine yung ginagamit. Instead of electric motor. Okay? So, they're effective para sa large installation o kaya naman kung limited yung space. Halimbawa ay sa mga area na limited lang yung space nila for pumping station. Okay, yun nga lang ang gas turbine ay mas mahal ang initial cost, yung construction niya, yung kanyang installation compared sa electric motor at sa diesel engine. Okay, so meron akong ipapakita sa inyo short video about prime movers. Wait lang, tingnan lang natin kung okay itong video na ito kasi baka naman mamaya okay, wala akong makitang maayos na video. Sige, skip na natin yung video dito sa prime movers. Let us now move on to SCADA. Okay? So, SCADA or Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. So, ang SCADA is a set of instrumentation and control system that are critical for managing and monitoring the operations of crude oil pumping station. So, hindi lang sa crude oil pumping station, sa lahat ng process facility, gumagamit po ng SCADA. Okay? So, ang SCADA again stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition System. Okay? At ito yung system na ginagamit in order to monitor and control yung pipeline operations as well as yung pumping stations. Kasama doon sa pipeline operations, yung pumping station. Kasi nga malayo siya, so dapat meron isang control room wherein makokontrol mo at monitor yung operating parameters sa pipeline at sa pumping station. So, kasi doon makikita halimbawa kung ano na ang pressure, ano ang flow rate, anong velocity ng crude oil sa loob ng pipeline. So hindi naman natin siya madedetermine without the help of instrumentation. So doon papasok si SCADA. Meron siyang gamit na hardware, yung mga instruments, and then nakakonect siya sa computer. So yung computer may ginagamit siyang software. Okay? So may ginagamit na software para ma-monitor at ma-check real-time yung mga operating parameters. Okay? Okay.
Alauna, hindi lang.
Okay, so bukod sa monitoring, kaya din at pwede ding makontrol yung mga devices remotely. Ibig sabihin, hindi kailangan pumunta ng operator para mag-adjust ng halimbawa ng pump. Kaya siyang i-control through the use of SCADA. So, bukod sa real-time monitoring, kaya din niyang magbigay ng access to control the instruments, yung mga auxiliaries doon sa pipeline operations. Okay? So, yung remote monitoring and automation involves technologies that enable operators to oversee and control pumping station from distant locations. So, we are talking about ilang hundreds of kilometers of pipeline, especially sa mga malalaking bansa like US, Russia, ayan, Middle East, ayan. So, napaka-impractical naman to go there directly kung hindi naman talaga need. Unless otherwise, need ng manual operation o kaya naman ay need ng inspection or maintenance. Pero kung routine, lang siya, work monitoring, kaya na siya ng SCADA. Okay? So, meron ako ipapakitang video sa inyo about SCADA for you to understand. So, anyway, ito nga palang figure 34 natin. Ito yung example ng itsura ng SCADA. Pag siya ay view mo sa computer, ganyan siya. So, makikita mo dyan yung may mga gauge dyan. Nandyan yung halimbawa ay may level control, may pressure control, may temperature control, meron ding gauge, pressure gauge, temperature, monitoring devices, flow rate, monitoring devices. Ayan, nakalagay dyan lahat. At yan, nakalagay dyan yung real time na halimbawa anong pressure, anong temperature, anong level sa loob ng tangke, ano ang flow rate sa loob ng pipeline. Okay? So, meron magpapakitang video sa inyo about SCADA para mas maintindihan nyo kasi ang Inilagay ko na lang dyan sa inyong module ay short introduction kasi nga medyo medyo mahaba yung discussion about transportation. Kung ibabrowse niyo yung module natin, medyo malayo-layo pa tayo. Hindi ko alam kung matatapos natin. But anyway, kung ano lang yung abuti ng ating topic, di yun lang ang kasama sa midterms. Ano?
The SCADA acronym stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. When considering this term, you can conjure varying images, and you should. Before we get started on today's video, if you love our videos, be sure to click the like button below. Then make sure to click subscribe and the little bell to receive notifications of new RealPARS videos. This way, you never miss another one. A SCADA system is a collection of both software and hardware components that allow supervision and control of plants, both locally and remotely. The SCADA also examines, collects, and processes data in real time. Human-Machine Interface, or HMI software, facilitates interaction with field devices such as pumps, valves, motors, sensors, etc. Also within the SCADA software is the ability to log data for historical purposes. The structural design of a standard SCADA system starts with remote terminal units, or RTUs, and/or programmable logic controllers, or PLCs. As you know, RTUs and PLCs are microprocessors that communicate and interact with field devices such as valves, pumps, and HMIs. That communication data is routed from the processors to the SCADA computers, where the software interprets and displays the data, allowing for operators to analyze and react to system events. Before SCADA, plant personnel had to monitor and control industrial processes via selector switches, push buttons, and dials for analog signals. This meant that plants had to maintain personnel on site during production in order to control the processes. As manufacturing grew and sites became more remote in nature, relays and timers were used to assist in the supervision and control of processes. With these devices employed, fewer plant personnel were required to be on site in order to oversee and control operations. While relays and timers did provide some level of automation, the panels required for these devices took up valuable real estate. Troubleshooting was a nightmare, and reconfiguring was difficult at best. These issues, in conjunction with the need to grow even larger industrial plants, helped to facilitate the birth of automation. As you may know from previous videos, controlling industrial plants via processors became a reality in the 1950s. Gas and oil, utilities, and manufacturing were major users of these new technologies and supervisory control. About a decade later, telemetry came on the scene to offer even more remote capabilities, with automated communication and data transmission to remote monitoring locations. Another decade later, the term SCADA was used to describe systems with PLCs and microprocessors that were being used for the monitoring and control of automated processes on an even greater scale than ever before. SCADA, back then, was anything but practical. They were colossal machines, mainframes really, and since networking was not yet in the picture, they were standalone units. In the next couple of decades, the 80s and 90s, with computer systems getting smaller, the advent of local area networking or LAN, and HMI software, SCADA systems were able to connect to related systems. Unfortunately, though, the communications were typically proprietary, which meant that connections outside of the particular vendor of the SCADA system were not allowed. This early SCADA was coined distributed SCADA systems. Later in the 90s and 2000s, SCADA began to implement open system architectures with communication protocols that were not vendor-specific. As you can imagine, this opened up SCADA's ability to connect with varying vendors. This newer, more improved SCADA was then called a networked SCADA system.
Hey there, fellow developers. If you're looking for a tool that makes API debugging, testing, and documentation fun and effortless, then you can't.
Okay, hindi ko napansin. Hindi na pala yun ang naka-share. So anyway, hanggang doon lang po yung ating midterm. Hanggang SCADA lang. Kasi chinek ko, masyado siyang makapal. Wala naman ako magawa kasi yun yung nasa syllabus natin. Yung coverage talaga. So, please prepare for our midterm examination. So, ang midterm type of exam natin, sasabihin ko na, kaysa magpaulit-ulit pang magtanong, lahat naman tayo kasama. Lahat ay isama ninyo, i-consider ninyo. Kasi, halimbawa, yung natin, yung sa yung mga concepts natin, syempre kasama naman yun sa exam. So hindi naman pwede po na tayo ang ating exam ay pang first year yung level kasi may sinusunod tayong Bloom's Taxonomy. Tapos meron kaming moderation form. So chine-check kasi doon ng moderator kung nasa tamang level ba yung questions namin according dun sa year level na aming tinuturuan. Halimbawa, dahil itong Prodeng ay pang 4th year, dapat yung questions namin ay match doon sa level ng Bloom's Taxonomy pang 4th year. So, kaya baka kayo magtaka bakit ganun yung mga questions. So, anyway, lahat naman ng binanggit ko, lahat naman ng sinabi ko sa inyo na nasa module nyo at yung mga diniscuss natin, yung mga dinagnag ko, ay kasama yun sa exam. Hindi pa lang ako nakakagawa class kasi nag-iintin. Mayroon din akong ibang tinatapos na work na related sa ating accreditation. So, pero lahat ng concepts ay inyong aralin. Okay? So, hindi naman ko po, dahil hindi pa nga ako nakakagawa, hindi ko pa sure kung alin ba dito specifically. At saka, hindi din naman tama na ako ay magbibigay ng kung ano lang yung aaralin ninyo. Kasi, that would be unfair sa aking side. Kasi, ibig sabihin, hindi nyo naaaralin yung ibang part. Bali, wala yung aking pagtuturo, yung oras at effort kong magturo, kung pipiliin nyo lang kung anong inyong sasauluhin. At saka, it's not all about memorization. Okay? So, maaralan nyo class, mahalagang maaral nyo yung diniscuss natin na computation sa separation process at yung design ng storage tank. Yung table, di ba sabi ko gagamit tayo ng table. Ako na magbibigay ng values. Ang kailangan nyo lang ay alamin nyo kung ano yung halimbawa sa case ng storage tank, ano yung diameter, ano yung height, ano yung thickness. Madali namang i-memorize yung formula ng thickness. Yun namang ibang properties doon, yung ibang parameter, ay ibibigay ko na yung value, yung mga halimbawa ay anong tawag dito, joint efficiency factor. Okay? So, yun yung mga ibibigay ko na sa inyo yung value. Ganon din naman sa separation process. Sa separation process naman, halos lahat din naman ay naka-provide na sa inyo. Ang inyo lamang sasauluhan dyan at iintindihin ay yung formula. Yung formula naman actually paulit-ulit lang naman siya. Hindi naman ganun ka-complicated ng formula dahil ang involved lang naman dito na variable ay halos dalawa lang. Halimbawa, sa formula ng retention volume, QL times TR. So, ang QL natin ay yung ating yung flow rate na given, which is given naman. Yung T sub R natin o yung retention time ay given din. Given naman siya lahat, class. Kailangan mo lang alamin kung
Ito ay pa-Teacher's Day ng team. Kung sino maabot. Pero ang pet-end daw ay... Ano ba? Original na yan. Kailangan pet-end.
Okay po, class. So, yun yung mga need nyong i-memorize. Hopefully ay inyong, at kung ano lang din naman ang case or type ng problem na binigay ko at diniscuss natin, ayun lang din naman ang ibibigay kong exam. Para hindi na mahirapan. Yun lang din. Sana naman ay kayo makapasa na kasi pwede naman ako magbigay ng ibang case ng problem kasi yun na may i-analyze nyo lang din. Pero para hindi na kayo mahirapan, ang kung ano na lang yung diniscuss natin sa klase na type of problem, yun na lang din ang aking ibibigay. Yung sa storage tank at yung sa separation system, yun yung may computation. Malinaw, class? Naintindihan po? Naintindihan? Okay. Sige po. Yes po. May question? Wala na? Wala na pang tanong? Okay po. So, kung wala nang tanong, yun lang muna for now. Good luck on your midterm examination. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you po, ma'am.